Good evening. Welcome to the meeting of the Board of Selectmen. It was scheduled for this Monday, but being held on Thursday, January 29th. Madam Clerk, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
On the agenda tonight, at 6:30, we'll have fire department introductions. Once they're done reading the mail, emergency update dealing with the blizzard that we just had, followed by the Park and Rec Commission talking about the 2016 budget. 7:05, input and updates from the public and members. Around 7:10, we go through the budget updates with a joint meeting of finance and school committees, talking about the operating budget and capital improvement plans. 7:50, review the selectmen's regulations and policies. 8:15, a public hearing, entertainment license for Act 3, 529 King Street. After that, the town administrator and the assistant town administrator for finance and budget. Electric Light Department gift fund, Council on Aging funding appeal for transportation, other business, minutes, and we'll adjourn. The town administrator, mail.
Sure. Mr. Chairman, just a couple of items. We have communications from the Mass Municipal Association and the Metropolitan Area Planning Council outlining their proposed set of legislative priorities for the new legislative session that has just started. I just wanted to share those with the board. Also to say that the Magic subregion of MAPC holds an annual legislative breakfast, which at this point is going to be the last Friday morning in February. We're going to have it at the Old Bedford Town Hall. We've got most of the legislators in the districts lined up, so we'll send out an invitation to all so that you can be aware of that. Then the only other thing included, we have an initial response from the Chief of Police to a request we'd received earlier asking for a truck exclusion route on Harwood Avenue, and we can, the chief does express some concerns about blocking off traffic there, but we can proceed and request a further traffic study of it. So.
Well, who actually has a final determination on that? Is it Mass Highway?
Mass Highway doesn't the end yet. You have to give them an alternate route. And at that point, the only alternate route is, Newtown Road to Goldsmith Street to the Common, because Route 2 to Taylor Street's blocked off because there's a truck exclusion on Taylor Street. So it's kind of...
So that Taylor Street will open back up once the bridge's done, or? No.
No, the town had got that truck exclusion
Long time.
Years ago.
10 years ago.
Yeah.
The lower half.
The lower half.
The lower half,
Hadn't
okay.
go to the depot. So, I mean, trucks can go on the roadway, any of the roadways, even exclusions, if they're going to, a property, obviously, on the, like how Waterworks has their facility down there on Taylor Street, the trucks can go to that because it's a business on the street. But like the very fine trucks can't cut through to there because they can hit the alternate route. They can go to King Street and go up to 495, so they can't use Taylor Street to 2.
Maybe go through this, probably if we got the history as to what we're talking about with that ban, it'd be useful.
Yeah.
And what actually prompted this request?
It was just a, we had a
resident
citizen,
on
yeah, we had a
Harwood.
resident who was here
Came to one of our meetings.
at a meeting a couple of months ago.
Increased.
We can put together some more.
Howard Avenue.
I mean, I wouldn't suggest trying to do the count during the winter. Do the count when the springtime opens up and things start moving, because, obviously, a lot of trucking is shut down right now.
Okay. Moving on, Chief Luzinski, would you come up, please, introduce the new people in your department, and then we'll follow it up with the update and blizzard update.
All right, unfortunately tonight, Justin O'Bear, one of the newer call guys, wasn't able to make it. He's in his EMT class. But here we have Mark Rogers and Ryan Valcourt. Justin. They were the 3 graduates from the Mass Fire Academy in December. They attended the 5-month recruit call vol program then, and they are now members of the call department and actively responding to emergencies. Andrew Duquette, he is our new full-time firefighter EMT. He was one of 34 applicants, and he was brought down in the process, down to 12 on the first interview, and it was narrowed down to 5. Andrew was the top pick from the committee that had reviewed everybody and been participating in the interview process. Hopefully Andrew will be attending the academy in April, and that'll be a 9-week full-time recruit program.
So have your other new members of your department, have they all gone through the academy? I know you were staggering them as a,
Brian St. Gelais graduates next week Friday. Matt Moniz will be starting the following Monday, and then Andrew will be going in once Matt graduates.
Nice.
And then that'll be the end. So hopefully come July, we'll be running full, and we'll actually be able to realize the full effects of having a swingman in position and have a good full year of, without covering everybody on some shift.
Take it yourself.
Yeah.
Take it from one or
Great, well, welcome.
congratulations. So are these gentlemen here, are they gonna go through the EMT class also? One?
If they wish. Justin, he just started his EMT class, I think last week, or 2 weeks ago. And
I
you're,
start mine on Monday.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Well, that's awesome, congratulations.
5 months.
Nice.
it's a long process.
I mean,
But it's
that's a lot of dedication. Congratulations. We're
Congratulations.
lucky to have
Thank you.
people like yourself. Congratulations.
Yeah,
Well, anything else, Board?
Oh, no, excellent.
glad to have you on board.
Thanks.
Good-looking crew.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Congrats.
Welcome.
Thank you very much. Thanks,
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Congratulations. Congratulations.
You guys are free to run. Okay. You guys are pretty good. Thanks.
Back to work.
Now, Chief, if you can fill us in on some of the small things that happened this past week.
Might have snowed or something. So we had all the department heads for the essential employees, as well as board members, members of the school, that met on Monday morning and Monday afternoon in preparation for the storm. We went over to make sure that everything was set in place, potential shelter, schools were canceled. We had plenty of staffing in fire, police, highway. The things went pretty well. The snow did have the upper hand for a majority of the day on Tuesday. It was very difficult to keep up. The highway guys did a spectacular job doing the best they could to keep up with it. The fire department and the police department each sent an additional employee down to help with plow trucks at the height of the storm, just to give that extra hand. But by I think it was by about 11 o'clock Tuesday night, they called it quits. They had enough and had to go get some rest. But all day yesterday and today, they've been doing snow removal, removing the bankings, sidewalk clearing. Schools had a 2-hour delay today. They were able to finally open up the rest of the schools this morning, and schools back to normal. As far as I am aware, there was no damage to equipment. It was a pretty uneventful storm as far as that goes.
They had bubble wrap around Jimmy, right?
Yeah, right.
That happened before the
Anti-roll
blizzard.
bars in the sidewalk machine.
Pre-blizzard tip over.
And then
I know it.
the schools were actually up on the roofs today. They shoveled a portion of the roof at the middle school, cleaned around some of the rooftop units, as well as a portion of Shaker Lane. Everything looks well as far as the snow load on the roofs are concerned. Tomorrow, we will be, tomorrow morning at 10, actually, is the federal assistance meeting for reimbursement. So at least they're beginning that process quickly. So we'll try to get the ball rolling, and we should be able to recoup about 70% of anything to do with the snow removal.
Great.
So just knock on wood, things are moving along pretty smoothly.
I did have a chance to talk to Jimmy briefly with the highway department, and the public should know that some of his work is, your work is included 38 straight hours.
Yeah.
With this tiny breaks here and there so they could rest their eyes for a while.
Yep, yeah, very short breaks. Yeah, everybody was above and beyond, doing the snow removal, trying to keep the roads open. A lot of the roads were only, a single vehicle wide, but it's the best that they could do with the amount of snow that came down. I mean, technically, they said we got 34 inches, so it's pretty good.
And it says, by a trained spotter. What's a trained spotter?
They actually have, the National Weather Service has spotters that, I believe it's a 4-hour class that they take, and they have their own little weather station and everything like that, and they get qualified by the National Weather Service and
all be
to
trained.
report that.
I didn't know.
What am I gonna do in my retirement? I'm gonna be a spotter.
Somewhere up in Maine.
Somewhere.
But I think the chief did a great job as our emergency management director, and felt that things were very organized, and all went well. Great updates throughout the event from fire, police, highway, light and water, and everybody pitched in as usual in Littleton, and employees again did a great job for us, so thank you.
Thank you. Any questions from the board?
I just offer, sometimes non-events become non-events because of training, planning, and good execution. Chief, you did all that, and everybody in public safety here in the town did that, whether it's police, fire, highway department, and many others involved. So a lot of things that did not happen, they didn't happen because you all did a great job. Thanks a bunch.
Actually, while I have everyone's brief attention here, I haven't even had a chance to talk with Keith, but Homeland Security, they opened the Safer Grant this afternoon, and I would like to get permission from the board to apply for that. Going forward, we would be looking for an additional 4 firefighters, which we would most likely go to hire paramedics, and we would change our service from the basic EMS service to a paramedic service. If we were able to attain that grant, it would give us 2 years of 100% funding. And long range, if we were to go to change over to the paramedic service, the additional revenue that would bring in would potentially fund those positions plus.
What's the deadline on the grant?
The end of the month, end of February.
We have a meeting on February 9th, and if we're talking about a couple $100,000 in staffing, and we're still not out of the woods with $800,000 in a deficit next year, so why don't we, I'd suggest we put it on the agenda for, I'm very supportive of the grant
Sounds like a
application,
plan.
absolutely supportive, but when are we?
One thing
I
I
think
would-
it constitutes as an emergency to.
No,
put it on the
I
agenda.
understand. But one thing I would be looking for is simple permission for me to apply. We can always say no if we get it, just because it takes a long process to fill in the blanks between now and then.
We can't
And
make
by
that-
then, I'll bring you all the
it's not an
facts and
agenda
information.
item, so I don't
Yeah,
think
you
we
could be you can work
We'll
on the
work
grant,
on it.
work on the grant application. and-
Perfect.
That would make sense
Bring
for
us
the
the grant
February
application.
9th
Talk to you
meeting.
on the 9th.
Yes.
All right, thank you.
That's the date. Thanks, Chief.
Thanks, Chief.
There's a procedural motion that
Yeah,
the
we
board
need a
should take
motion.
tonight.
I move that the Board of Selectmen vote to lift the state of emergency which was declared Monday, January 26, 2015 at 3 p.m. Due to the blizzard of 2015. Seconded?
Motion's been moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, that passes.
Thank you.
Okay, Park and Rec Commission. You want to move up front? And Bonnie, how do you want to start this off?
Little slideshow?
No slideshow for this.
Oh.
Last day? Well, congratulations on your appointment.
Yes, congratulations.
We wish you the best.
Thank you.
So, I guess,
So at a Finance Committee meeting a week or so ago, the Finance Committee suggested Park and Rec needed to come talk to the Board of Selectmen. And so here they are, in preparation, Bonnie put together some historic data about budgeting and and so forth, which it may be useful to go through. I know it was shared with the Park and Rec prior to the meeting, and perhaps that, unless Fred wants to open it with a,
I'll just make a little brief statement, and then Ivan is the numbers guy tonight, so.
I thought he was in the EDC.
Come on, Ivan. Because I don't have my glasses, so I can't read the numbers anyways. But we're here tonight to, sort of at the suggestion of FinCom, to ask for your board's support in us asking for an increase in our appropriation from them over the last year. And to sort of give the background on it, we've been in a situation which I think started before any of you were on the board, I mean, obviously the newer members, but any of you were aware, the idea from FinCom was that Park and Rec would become self-sufficient and cover their own costs and pay for their own programs out of program fees. And it's been, what, maybe 15 years that that's been going on. So over time, as we've developed programs, we only develop programs that are profitable in terms of working within the department. We don't do something that's going to cost us money. The only program we have now, for example, that does not make any money is the beach, because we have no real source of income down at the beach other than the beach stickers. So other than that, everything we do within the structure of the department is profitable. However, as the attempt to make us self-sufficient has progressed, we've taken on paying our own utilities, paying for supplies, benefits, retirement, and all of those. And we're at a point now where we just can't support that. We had a reserve built up, which is going to be used to go towards 300 King Street, towards replacing the beach house, for upgrading some of the other things. One of Keith's projects, which we were hoping to get, was pocket parks that he had suggested. And we've gone through the reserve, and we're actually at a point now where the reserve is exhausted, and at the current appropriation, we're about $80,000 short. And I'm rounding these numbers off to make them easy to understand. So while the function of the department is to provide community education, recreational programs, and try and do community-based things, not just the sports leagues, not just the camps, but things like Third Thursday, Holiday Helpers, Fire and Ice. Adult community ed. We absorbed that from the schools about 9 years ago. So that was something that, even when they talked about us becoming self-sufficient, wasn't part of the idea. We took that, the schools sort of pushed that on us, and we didn't go out looking to take that over. So we've got that. We've also had some setbacks in the way driver's ed employees are classified, so now the pay rate on those went up about 15-20% at least. At one of the town meetings, we had done a survey for our seasonal employees and come up with a pay raise for those, and somebody at town meeting felt we were taking advantage of them, so they voted down our suggested pay schedule, and they implemented a new one, which forced us to close the beach for a couple weeks because we were short. So we're just at a point now, we're at a crossroads. We can't continue on with what we do now. We're probably at a point where there's no two ways around it. We need to eliminate, based on the current appropriation, 1.5 employees. And in doing that, you can look at our programming based on eliminating those employees that run the programs. There are programs that are going to have to be cut. And so that's where we're here now. The other option is for the mission of the department to change, which, and just to go back, we've sort of been having this discussion. We've come to you and asked for help, and we've got, not you, but this board, whoever's been on it, and been told, well, it's not a policy that FinCom's made, it's just sort of what they're trying to implement, go back to them. And then they say, well, what did the selectmen say? So it's been a circle for 10, 12 years that we've been going back and forth and trying to figure out where the funding's going to come from. So we can either continue on with our mission and do community-based things, after-school programs, the camps, not just the sports camps, but Tehadawon and that, or we're going to have to look at making some changes. And the other option would be to
to come from you guys, that the mission of the department isn't such a broad community-based thing anymore, but more just run a pay-for-play type of program, where if you don't have the money, if you're willing to pay, you can participate in some sort of recreational activity. Otherwise, there's nothing there. And that's basically where we're at, I think. Is that fair? Okay.
First question I have, when you say becoming self-sufficient, and you talk about benefits and that comes into yours, do the other departments do the same thing as far as just the benefits part and the?
No, any enterprise funds, yes, the benefits, like the water department, for example, the benefits are paid directly out of the enterprise fund. For Tiger's Den, that's another one, they pay for their health insurance benefits. So anything that's like a business entity pays for its own benefits. Park and Rec, back in 2008, had just a little over 2 for staffing. They had a full-time director, a 30-hour-a-week community ed director, and a 20-hour admin assistant. At that time, the town was picking up the benefits for those employees. It happened to be that 2 of the employees took health insurance, and the other one did not. That level of benefit support has not changed since 2008. So I'm currently still picking up benefits for the two employees. And anybody that's been added since then through programming has been charged to Park and Rec. So we're still carrying what we used to carry in 2008. It's just the additional staffing that has been charged to the fund themselves. Go ahead.
Kate has.
Sorry, but we did have part-time people. That was part of the change. So we had, it wasn't, because I started in 2008, and when I came in, there were 3 part-time people, the community education director and myself. But I believe that those part-time people, that was a job share. It was 2 persons. One of them took benefits. And there was a line item for the former director, and I'm the one that didn't take benefits, but
She didn't either. I actually went back into the general ledger and downloaded all of the budget information that was submitted by the previous director from fiscal 2007, fiscal 2008. And her 2008 budget worksheets had herself and the 20-hour-a-week admin assistant. The 30-hour-a-week community ed director was paid out of the community ed account.
well, there were 4 people in
Yeah.
the office, so I don't know how, but, I mean, that's what I came into. So I just think that that's important, because it's not that we just kept adding.
Yep. And so what I did is I took that, we're keeping that level of benefit support, so we're still paying for that. It is part of the general fund subsidy that you see this fiscal year, the $62,000, in addition to the $40,000 wage item. So the total general fund subsidy for this year for normal operations is $102,000. So I believe what you're looking for is 198 instead of the 102, which is an additional, it would bring them back to the 2008 level support in their mindset for the department. So then if you go forward into this fiscal year, I ran the same payroll data. I took the same budget worksheets. So in 2014, which is the last closed fiscal year, we had the director, the assistant director, the program coordinator, and part-time staff positions with a FTE of 6. A lot of that is because driver's ed. There were, additional staff for driver's ed. It's based on the budget documents that were submitted for the department for that fiscal year. The salaries of the staff were partially supported by the general fund appropriation of $40,000, as well as the benefits for the retirement costs and for 3 employees and the health insurance for 2. Anybody beyond that was charged directly to the enterprise fund. So of the 9 employees, and again, it's a 6 FTE, but of the 9, 5 were benefit eligible because they were over 20 hours a week, with only 3 taking the health insurance benefits. So that's what was charged to the revolving funds. In fiscal 2008, the revolving funds balance, or the reserves, had a balance of $433,000. Every fiscal year, pretty much since 2010, there's been a drawdown, averaging about $88,000 in order to support the current programming level. So at the end of last fiscal year, there was a balance of about $145,000. I'm projecting that at the end of this fiscal year, it'll essentially be gone, which would mean that there'd need to be some adjustment made in fiscal 2016 in order to operate in the same manner that they're operating now, in order to provide the same level of programming. If it isn't appropriated directly, then before I set the tax rate, the Department of Revenue is going to make me raise the deficit in setting the tax rate, which means we either need to appropriate it out of general revenues, which means reducing budget funds somewhere else. You could appropriate it out of reserves, like undesignated fund balance, which is kind of at the cutting into the capital plan budget, essentially, for that. The other options are, they change the programming and they change their model, like Fred had mentioned. But at this point, in fiscal 2016, something needs to happen.
I guess, I've been the figures guy, and I hate reading all this stuff, but I take a look at, like, even in 2008, the debt and the credit. The debt was $521,000. You go to 2014, it's $1 million. Why such a big difference over that time span?
Doubled.
There's quite a bit of change in what people were being paid. I don't know if it's that much, but that going back.
Well, and then programming increases. I mean, if you added driver's ed, that's, bodies and salaries and positions that go with that, so.
Right,
It's not-
and those salaries, we're, Personnel Committee has dictated what those salaries are gonna be. So, yeah, we've had increases there.
Those people
Okay.
were independent contractors when we
Right.
first started that, so they
Right.
just got a per drive stipend. And then, that had to change for legal reasons, which is understandable, but then we paid them on a revolving, on our Schedule C, which is basically the Park and Rec employees. And then that was more considered temp seasonal, and so we weren't really supposed to do that. So then they were placed on Schedule A, and so at the most, the director of the driver's ed program got $7 more an hour than he was making previously. So he was reduced from full-time to part-time. But then we had to bring on more part-time people who were normally paid in the $15 to $18 range, and now they're paid well above $20, $25. So, the program, that's just one instance of it, but we can't raise fees, or we could not raise fees, the amount in 1 year, the amount to cover, the salaries that were being raised in that same year. So what essentially was happening when I graphed it out is basically we were having like a 30% increase in programming, but a 70% increase in expenses associated with those programs. And so if you start raising the fees, 70% or more, you're going to see a drop-off, which we have in some of our programs, And I think
They're not as,
They're not as profitable.
They're not as profitable. We're not pulling in as much money if the enrollment goes down. So you reach that point where it's the tipping point, that, the price point.
I mean,
Okay?
almost 580 stickers sold in 2008 for the beach at a $35 level, so do the math on that. Now we're up to $55, and we had a 50% drop-off because people are able to park in the neighboring communities, or they are able to park at the state-owned boat launch, and we don't charge them to walk in. We're only allowed to charge to park. So they're still using, there's no decrease in what they're using as far as services and the expenses for those services, but there's a decrease in the revenue to offset those. So that was huge. I mean, last year, the beach had a loss of over $65,000. So, and it's been a loss for several years because of that. So I think when you take all of these things together, it starts, to compound to be a much larger number every year.
So I think the department is great. I love the Park and Rec department, but when they showed me these figures and the town's running a deficit, and now you want to take more money. It's almost like, where does it come from? Does your model have to change in some way? And this is just a general statement by me. And anyone else wants to join in,
I think Fred said it. I mean, the cost is obvious salaries. You don't have to be a mathematician to figure that out. Your business model, you're gonna have to I think the commission should take a hard look at the business model and make those tough decisions. I mean, we're staring down the face of a $800,000 deficit right now and $900,000 deficit right now, and the money's just not there, and we're still waiting for schools and their final numbers to come in. I think it's time, you take a look at these numbers and, 145 for 2014, 145,000 decrease in your revolving funds, 108 for 2013. It's just unsustainable. You can't sustain a program that's, drawing down everything that you have. And
But
I
it's not
think,
drawing down because it's a failure. It's drawing down
I didn't
because
say
it's
anything
at a
about a
price
failure.
point that people can't.
Well, and
I
it's
didn't
that,
say-
and we have more expenses that we have to incur now with retirement, et cetera, over the years that we're not being picked up anymore. So it's got to come from somewhere. So
absolutely.
what Fred alluded to is, okay, we're changing, you say change the model. We're changing.
Well, the model is we allow people to play even if they can't participate. And I guess one of the largest examples is the Littleton Youth Football, for example. That started in my time here, so I'm able to look at it from beginning to end. There's 37% of the kids who play football who can't pay the fee. That's a lot of kids. So if they're not playing, you don't have enough to field a team. I'm not saying, but you're right, that's a model. The model is we suck up the cost so that you can
You have to
play.
look at everything. I mean, you're at a point in time where I think the commission has to really take a hard look at from A to Z and don't leave no stone unturned, whether it be lacrosse, football, basketball, sports, the recreation piece of it. Sports is just one piece, but I mean, all your programs.
I think that you were handed some situations that you weren't working with when this first happened. And we know that the feds changed the classification of employees. We know that town meeting said no to what would have been a lower rate for part-time seasonal employees. And the mission itself has grown. And I think the measure here is, and it's all well and good for us to say, okay, this is what you got to do. But the measure really is, what is it that the townspeople want? Do they want this level of service? And how do we measure that? How do we know that? Because it's all well and good for your board and our board and finance committee to sit here and say, this is what we think the public wants. At some point, we have to ask the public what they want. We work for them. And this is that decision point, because if we look at the budget and we look at the numbers, we can't do this. We haven't got the money to do it. Somebody's got to be cut at least, a considerable amount to accommodate what you want to do. What you do is great. You have great participation. The townspeople like it. But if we're going to stick in the current financial model, we've got to take it from somewhere in order to give you what you're asking for. I have no problem doing that if I think that the townspeople themselves have said, we're used to this level of service and this is what we want. And then ultimately they make the model. But given the circumstances we have in front of us right now, we have to make some tough choices. And I think you're going to have to go back and say, okay, this is what it looks like if we have to make those tough choices. This is what's left of Park and Rec without the supplemental funding. And
then we need to open up that dialogue to the townspeople and say, what do you want? Do you want this to happen? And I think that's how we have to proceed. But I don't see that we have a choice right now. We're looking at a number, we're 300 in the hole, and we're holding on every way we can to balance that. And if we do this, we're creating quite a problem. And also in your defense, however, we've been kicking this around for a while. And I agree, you haven't gotten a definitive message from us or from anybody. We're saying we'd like you to be self-sufficient, but we didn't take into account all the changes. And so if we ask for self-sufficiency, then that means you go back to the business model and you give us that model and you tell us what that is, what that looks like. And that may not be acceptable to everyone. And, but I think, what's happened here is that we can't kick it around any longer. We have to decide what's going to happen. And it's unfortunate because we don't have a lot of time to sort this out.
And I'd go so far as to, look at all the job descriptions, see what has to, if there are modifications are necessary from the director on down. Are there different descriptions that can be produced and fit your needs and your basic business models? So, it's not an easy thing. I hear you. I mean, anybody that runs any type of business or knows anything about business, it's not an easy time to come forward and do this.
It's not.
I know, that's my
it's not a
question. It's really not a business, it's a town program that we want to, we hear about how Littleton's got these AA, AAA ratings. People move to here because of the value to live here with the programs going on. I've seen it on Facebook, we're rated 4th in the country for Halloween, thanks to the great Park and Rec Department. But we want to help supplement that. The town doesn't want to supplement that, but they want to have the high standards.
Right.
So where does the money come from? If it can't come from the town, which I know there's a big deficit, but other departments keep going up and Park and Rec keeps going down. So where does the money come from? And if it means, shutting down programs to make it balance, the big programs are going to be shut down.
Yeah, shutting down 1 or 2 programs is not
Well,
going to
we
make
went
up.
through it.
Yeah,
It's the beach, it's after school,
Right.
and it's vacation camps, and it's almost all special events. Because those are the ones that have a net loss of well over, 10,000. The beach, number one.
But it's the biggest quality of life to Littleton people.
It's,
Right.
and in that case, the Clean Lakes Committee has voted to finally do the tight tank, and to what end? Because those facilities, we are flooded with emails. Could you please leave the beach open through September because it's nice and we want the facilities? And I can't imagine what it's going to be like when it's not open at all. And I don't know. There are communities that have done that. Lancaster, Groton, they had to close their beaches. It's just, for me, I don't know, I guess I'm emotionally attached to it, but I don't like when the model changes from if you don't have enough money to pay, you don't get to play. It's so important. It's so important. And I know it's a hard choice, and I do not envy the commission members. They are so dedicated, and they care so much. But it's as essential, in my opinion, as education. It's your social world. It's education through play. I'll get off my soapbox.
Do you know how much, since first started talking about self-sufficiency, how much is the participation and then numbers of people changed since then?
Well, it's sort of comparing apples to oranges because, you mean from the 2007 level-ish? Because community ed brought with it its own constituency. And then, the beach has its own grouping of persons. But I would say that, it's got to be close to a 50% increase in participation. Certainly, the sports leagues are a great example of that. but greater access for a wider variety of people has made the programs grow as well. I mean, like I said, just the football example, I mean, you would have a decrease in participation by 30% if they
Well, and
didn't
also-
pay a reduced or no fee at all.
One of the
so.
biggest increases was adult community ed. When the schools had adult community ed, and I don't know, Paul, if you remember at that time.
3 days,
It was 3 days.
About a year.
You know, they were struggling to keep those programs afloat. And we took it on from the schools and expanded the programs and got more participation for adults in this community. We didn't have to do it. We did it to save it. The schools were going to ultimately, they were looking at, doing away with it.
Well,
So-
I've had conversations with Charlie Ellis about the community ed piece. And, he told me that basically the community ed was given to Park and Rec to help out Park and Rec.
Oh, no. I worked with Charlie. No, time out.
You know,
I worked with Charlie and Dr. Livingston on this because he was looking to cut this because it was costing him money. Okay? Yeah, oh, no. I was on Park and Rec when that happened,
And that was a long protracted negotiation, but that was,
Absolutely.
he came to us and said, please take it.
Yeah.
But does community education, does that cost you money? Or is it, I thought that was self-sufficient, that one.
Depends on how you look at it, because it can pay for the programs and for most of the salary, but when you start adding in
Benefits,
retirement, contributions, and, even just the simple office supplies, I mean, when it was with the school, it was able to utilize the school's paper and ink and those kind of things, so, can it do that? I think that Sharon Martell is predominantly responsible for that, and she runs a very well-run program. She doesn't have classes that can't pay for themselves.
Right.
So, certainly they do that, but they don't make 30-40% over what their cost is to be able to sustain what it now has to be responsible for.
I think one of the things that sets us apart from some of the other enterprise funds, like Water and Light, is
Just one.
Yeah. But you know what I mean, but we're providing a service that's, it's not a requirement. Water, everybody, we can't raise our rates because some of our expenses went up and expect to continue the same income, then we lose participation. As opposed to people, if the water rate goes up, are you gonna use less water, Joe? No, I mean, that's, well,
I
maybe.
wouldn't deprecate your service that way.
No, but-
And here's why I say it that way, is while water certainly is a basic essential, we can say that, what you provide is an essential quality of life ingredient to the town. So to say, well, you're going to have to provide water, that's fair enough. We want to provide for sure of some sort of service. I don't see this as binary, by the way, whether it's $98,000 or zero. It's probably some other number than 0 or 98, and we're going to have to work through that. When we all met with FinCom, Water Selectmen, you all, back in November, we did ask, and for illustrative purposes, mind you, but it, I think, would help educate us. You've brought anecdotally some of the things that have caused you increases because of federal mandates, state mandates. That would be useful for us to be able to see that quantified in some way, and not down to the absolute, decimal point, but certainly to some degree. So it gives a vision as to what Bonnie perhaps already understands. I think we do at some level, but at a deeper level, it'll help us.
We did submit that.
The
Shortly
federal
after
mandate-
that.
Probably just went to FinCom now.
I don't know
Shortly
that.
after that meeting.
I don't, if it's my failure, I don't recall seeing it
No,
personally.
I don't know that it came to
So-
you guys, I think it might
Did-
have gone to them, because I
You recall?
know I had numbers to throw at them last meeting, so.
Yeah. And that's okay, if you've already done it, super. And then if we could just get our hands on it too, certainly I personally appreciate that, help me with some of my thoughts on this. You're hitting the nail on the head. The quality of life in Littleton depends greatly on what you do. When we talk about after-school programs, we don't make money in the schools, so let's talk about in-school programs. Those are not money-making operations, but we're educating our children, making them better. It's a better community overall, they're better people for it. The after-school education programs that you all run, certainly you charge some, so there's a business enterprise associated with that, but nevertheless, it's also a process by which we make better citizens and better people. and better quality of life in the town. So I want to be careful there that we don't just, separate them, that there's an iron curtain between the two of them, because that's not the case. There's an integration of the two. It's a continuation of that process, and you start to hit on it. And you're feeling passionate about it, and I have a passion, too, for it. I think everybody here in the room does. It's just, how do we, balance, paying for everything we do want to do in town, so that quality of life can continue and perhaps even expand with the limited revenue that we do have at hand. So that's the balance we're trying to get at. And I don't see that we should take any one department singularly and say, you got to do this, you got to do this, you got to do this. How do we all do it as a town to bring something together? I don't want to use the word compromise, because that's not the right word to use in this instance. But it is going to take, I think it's been suggested, perhaps some examination. So maybe not 98,000 isn't the right number for you to come forward with at some point, because you'll have gone back and done, not that you're going to do more homework, because you've probably done all you want to do when it comes to that. But perhaps present it a little bit differently. And this is the sacrifice we'll make. And that's the sacrifice you offer forward. And as a town, we all come together on it, whether it's at the fire department, the police department, the schools department. What sacrifices do we choose to make? And it'll be a town-wide sacrifice and not just department by department. That's what I'd offer to you all.
And I think, when we're done this conversation, we should all be clear between the selectmen, your board, FinCom, what the action items are going to be. Because, we've had this conversation before. And we need to get it to where we can put something down and say, this is the way we're going to go with it. And I'm not sure that we're at that stage yet. I agree with Paul. We have to look at the what-ifs and the changed business model. And that may be something that's unacceptable. But I guess the point of it is, when we're done here tonight, we all have to understand each other and what the action items are, and so that the next time we talk about this, we'll be able to be decisive.
It's not a good situation no matter how you look at it. It's not a good situation for Park and Rec, it's not a good situation for the town. But once expenses exceed your income, you have issues, and that's where you're at, so.
Yeah, but I'm hearing mixed messages here.
Why?
I'm hearing mixed messages that it's, Jim, we gotta look at the numbers, but the numbers are the numbers, so we've gotta make changes.
Yep.
Okay? Then I'm hearing, okay, come back to us with,
Those numbers.
some change. No, if we come back, we're gonna tell you this is what is going away.
Well, that is what we're doing. I mean, what you have in front of you, if that doesn't happen, and as Bonnie said, we're out of free cash, basically. So what is going away is, we're not going to open the beach.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
we already haven't sent out stuff for programming and hiring people back. We would have already done that. We do it the first of the year. We haven't.
But Fred, he started out 1 point, to make this go away, it was 1.5 employees, I believe
Yep.
what you said?
Yep.
So, I mean, that's an issue. If 1.5 employees get laid off, what impact does that, I mean, that's what I think the board's looking for.
Well, I think
is-
that's what Kate's saying, is for us.
Well,
the
so
easiest
you're saying is,
thing would be-
you got temporary employees that open the beach, but we're gonna close that, but 1.5 employees full-time, you lay them people up, what impact
The
to the
beach.
programs?
The
So they're down the beach?
Yes.
Those- That 1.5?
Yes.
It's basically a full-time person.
The
to run
person that
the beach.
runs the beach works full-time in the office. We don't have a head guard anymore. We got rid of that as a cost savings. But there's a lot more that goes into it in the preseason as well. But coupled with special events and the after-school program
And
makes
that's
up
what we're looking for.
1.5.
We need to know what the impacts are. That's what I'd want to see.
That's
To make
it.
a educated, well-educated, you can't base it on history, and that's all Bonnie gave us, really, is just history. We don't know anything about your programs. We don't see any expenditures about your programs. We don't see where those 6 people, what those 6 people that you currently employ do. We don't see any of that here. All we see is just numbers. Here's the expenses, here's the income. Your expenses are more than your income, there's an issue. So, I mean, I would like to see what your 6 people do, what impact that
Our
those...
budget documents have all that. It has a breakdown of what everybody does.
What a layoff of 1.5 would impact those budget documents. That's,
Right. So what does a balanced budget scenario
what is it, what is a
look like?
balance?
What is the
Right,
impact
I mean,
does that have on
we've
your
told
staff?
we've told the other departments, level funding, level staffing,
We have the out-of-balance
said that.
budget scenario.
Everybody knows that.
And Ivan, I certainly hope you're not getting a mixed message as to what I'm personally trying to say. You may have a different perspective from the various members on the board, and I think that's fair at this point. What I'm offering to you is I'm not prepared to say yes to you tonight, but nor am I in a position where I'm saying no to you. We don't have a perfect solution here. We're just going to have to work to the best one we can attain. And as I said previously, it'll be a town-wide approach to it, and not just, for me personally, okay, this is now obviously PJ speaking to you. I'm not going to look at you in isolation. I'm going to look at the rest of the town also as I contemplate as to how do we best work to, I don't know if solve the problem is the right word, but at least ameliorate it as best as possible.
I think, I agree with I'm not ready to say definitely yes or definitely no. But, and I understand you've done a lot of budget numbers, you've crunched a lot of numbers, we've talked about this for a while. But given this conversation, very, as Jim has said, very specific. This is what we must save, this is how we're gonna save it, this is what's impacted and how much. Bang, 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 just like that. And then we can make that choice. Give it your best shot at whatever you can do. And we'll look at that budget scenario, and then that's, and everything else that's happening, and continue to try to make some tough decisions.
A question I have for you, when it says general fund subsidy wages, if that hadn't been changed, where it's leveled now at $40,000, if that hadn't been changed, what effect would that have on what?
It would have pushed this problem out another year. It would have, my estimate for this fiscal year would be that they would end with about 148,000, which would mean at the rate of depletion, it would run out sometime next year or maybe the year after.
General fund
But it would still be,
was 68, that's 40 now.
it would still be a draw annually on the reserves if I had kept the general fund wage subsidy at the 2011 level.
That's been the same for like 3 years.
3 years, but it's not, I'm just saying if it stated that. So if it had stated that, once again, you're just pushing it off in
20, 40, 60.
I use
It's
model.
still a loss every year. There is still a loss every year. So it's still not a sustainable model.
So shall we have them back February? What do you guys think?
What's our time?
It's going to be your problem tomorrow.
Well, I think that it's going to be really tough. I don't know how you would go about getting it, I mean, I guess that's a decision for the commission, but if you're going to be changing the job description, that means you might hire somebody that had different qualifications than I had, or maybe not. And, I mean, I don't know, but I think until there's an answer, it would be, because it was hard for me to write up an ad when I don't really know what's happening. Like, if driver's ed's going away, that's a huge part of the director's responsibilities. So if that was something that wasn't offered anymore and removed from the job description, then that may be a different caliber of director that you have.
But that wouldn't account for 1.5 full-time employees.
No, it's a global picture of things altogether, right?
I mean, it's
So-
basically a menu Alex, where you've got the beach, you've got community programs, you've got the camps, after-school programs, and driver's ed. Those are pretty much the broader based ones. And we're looking at something out of that, several of that group is going to go. The community programs would be the first to go because they're the least profitable. The other thing is, and this has been our philosophy, and this is why we've come to you guys in the past, is if you want us to run community programs, but you want us to be self-sufficient, that means the people that are participating in the other things, community ed, driver's ed, sports, are paying for the community programs that everybody can take advantage of. They're also paying for some of the field maintenance and things, like maintenance at Fay Park. And to me, that's just, you're taxing just a small group of people that are taking part in park and rec programs, and the community's not paying for things that they're taking advantage of. And that's one of the reasons we've always come to you, is that's a philosophy that's got to come from the Board of Selectmen, not us.
But there's $102,000 that the town is paying annually towards your operating
There is,
budget.
but there's other things the director does. Kate was writing grant proposals for it. No, I'm just saying that it was not, her job did not just benefit solely the programs that we were running. There were other things, and you're, one way or the other, that money, somebody's got to administer the department. So
If employees get their step increase every year, which theoretically, I mean, the town has great employees, they would, it's a 3.5 or 3.2% increase. So even at a level staffing, each budget line item theoretically is getting anywhere between 3 and 10% to cover the costs of their employees, right? But we didn't get that, you know? So if you're thinking about where it goes over the $100,000 loss, I mean, the difference in salaries alone, I think, accounted for about 80,000 of that. And you're right, some of it is additional hours to cover staffing and other things like that, but I know that my position, when I look back historically, back in 2004, was paid, and I wasn't here then, but it was paid like $35,000 less than what it's listed as being paid now, at a mid-level. So, I mean, that's a large amount that has to be then taken from programs. Times 5, because there isn't 6 full-time people, there's only 5.
But our intention was to meet before this and review the director's job description and go over any tweaking we might do to that, but we realized that was pointless, because if we end up having to cut, for example, driver's ed and the beach, then and the community programs, then we're basically just have an administrator in there, like a secretary, that schedules the sports leagues and fills out the forms and does the credit card stuff. So it becomes a whole new world. So we decided that we wouldn't bother with that now, because we spend a lot of time doing something that we're not going to use.
Any statements from the Betsy or the FinCom?
The reason that I supported, and I'll speak for myself on this, but the reason I supported having the Park and Rec people come in and talk to the selectmen is that, in my view, the selectmen are the ombudsman for the voters of the town. They put you in the positions you're in to basically do their bidding and to run the day-to-day operations of the town with your staff. And I think the argument that struck home with me with the Park and Rec group is it seems to be truly a quality of life issue. And if the selectmen feel that quality of life is important enough to then balance that program against some other things that we're spending money on in the town, then if you, the selectmen, are in sync with Park and Rec, then maybe we take something forward to the town. If you're not, if you don't think the voters support the program that the Park and Rec commissioners have supported over the last 4 or 5 years, and it's expanded tremendously over the past 4 or 5 years, then I think we need to all stand up and say that. you hear about the kinds of things that will be cut. Well, the beach will be cut. The Halloween parade, yeah. They tried to cut that once, and it grew back. Another venue picked that up. But I just think that it's important for, you who have the pulse of the people who supported you to put you in office. Is this an important enough activity? I don't know, should we give Tiger's Den back to the schools? I don't know. For whatever reason, it's not in the schools anymore. But it may be that takes pressure off the Park and Rec, puts some pressure on Kelly, and the schools, but I don't know. I think it's to that point, and I think it is a tipping point, it is a breaking point. And there are some things that happened that were beyond the Park and Rec's control, which was the federal regulations on employees. A lot of the people are not only what they're being paid, but being full-time employees. We were paying as basically per diem contractors. Now they have benefits because the federal government changed the laws. So there's a lot of things have gone on here, and I really think it comes down to do we as a town want to maintain the quality of the programs that they present, or do we say times are really tough and we do have to cut back? And that was the reason I supported, suggested that they come in and talk to you guys and see if we couldn't, get the two groups on one page. And it may not be all, there may be some, or it may be none, I don't know. But, we haven't seen the schools. I don't have a real good feeling about what's coming out of the school group because, we just haven't seen any numbers yet. So if that's worse than we think it is, then this is really going to be a tough sell to find any money to support Park and Rec. Or it may be better than I think, and maybe we can find some. I don't know. That's just my 2 cents on it.
Well, and maybe to help prepare, I think what I'm hearing is you want help with the guidance on the direction to go, but the board needs a little bit more information to help provide the guidance. So maybe if we could have kind of a structured table, I was just going to send it to Keith that says, option 1, here's what it is, might not like it, but it's an option. Here's the impact short-term financially, long-term non-financially, and short and long-term non-financial. And then at least, to your point, Paul, we can take it as a universal decision, right? We've got all the potential options, and we can play with those with then the other data points that we get in from the other places, but at least I see you guys have described, a lot of what you're saying, but maybe if we can have it real easy to see visually with numbers plus words as well, that might help. I don't know, it's just a suggestion. It'd help me. Because I hear what you're saying, you guys, anyone that knows me knows I love the lake. That's something I'm personally really passionate about, and so sitting here thinking that it's going to be closed, I feel like you do, Kate. It's a really uncomfortable thought, but it's an option, and it's one that we have to look at no matter what. So let's get them all down, maybe. I don't know, just a thought. And maybe it's a short-term thing. Maybe it's real painful in the short term, and we say, hey, guys, we got a problem here. We got to cauterize the wound this year, and then we'll start building an artificial arm next year or something. I don't know.
Mr. Glavy?
Yeah, I concur with most of what's been said up front. I think consistently in here. Frustrating part is making connection between the math problem, which is largely, by evidence, a personnel-based problem, funding personnel, and then the proposed solutions, which is cutting programs, and virtually all the ones that are listed are the very ones I think you hear anecdotally people most want to keep: the sports programs, the beach, the events around town. So maybe the sort of list of options that Melissa was just speaking to, and some of the other programs that were highlighted individually earlier, if the driver's ed is not profitable, and there are other options out there that citizens use, maybe that goes out. If things like the Tiger's Den or the community ed used to be in the schools, maybe, look at moving them back out. And then when you've done that, the core mission, the other programs, what kind of staffing do you need to support that? It's just, it's difficult hearing, here's whatever it is, 5 to 6 positions funded at what they are and the growth rates that have been associated with that, and trying to match that up with what the actual programs are. I still can't understand why, cutting X percent of staffing leads to closing the beach as opposed to some other solution. And maybe that is true, but it's not so clear. And I think seeing those things on a list of options is probably a good place to start, so that we have a menu of choices to look at.
I think, if I might, Joe.
Yep.
When you're looking at programs, if you look at a program that is bringing enough revenue to sustain itself, but it's not contributing to the overhead to pay for the people who are directing the program, not the driver's ed guy, but the director or the program coordinator. If it's not contributing to that, then that program's no good either. So don't just look at keeping the programs that are making enough money to sustain themselves. Sometimes you might want to keep a program that isn't making any money, but it's a quality of life issue, and it's good for the town. The other thing to always keep in mind with Park and Rec, do we want to have a Park and Rec department that provides services only for kids whose families can afford to pay the price? Somewhere along the way, we have to make a investment in some of the other kids whose families are struggling and can't. They need these programs as well as my kids who can afford it.
I guess I would ask you to take a look at everything and come back, maybe with some of the ideas that Melissa had, the different options. And obviously, my family's been involved in recreation forever, so I know that I'll have people come and talk to me after seeing this meeting and say, geez, I don't want this cut, I don't want that cut. Quality of life comes up, but somewhere along the line, we have to make it so if something like, and I'm just using driver's ed as an example, if they have to eliminate something like that, then show us different options and see what we can do from there. And I guess that's what we have to leave it for now.
I agree.
It's not an easy issue, and I hate to see you leave under this.
Should we plan on meeting again? The Selectmen's next meeting is February 9th, which is just a week from Monday. So perhaps the one after that, the 23rd, February 23rd would be our next open date. Bonnie and I will be glad to work with the commission and staff between now and then.
Yeah, we'll just, we'll touch base.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, folks.
Thanks, guys.
Good luck, Kate.
Good luck, Kate. So that wasn't an easy topic. Yeah.
But what it does do, it sort of sets a stage too for all the other departments in the town, as we're having discussions with
Yeah,
them.
absolutely.
I think if other departments were watching us this evening or watch later, they will see at least our mindsets on things and how we're approaching it, and it'll help, I think, a more synergistic solution in the end game. So it was, we didn't solve a problem tonight, but I think we contributed to helping others when we all
But
work
nor did we
together.
have the information to solve the
That's
problem
the
either,
thing, yeah.
Yeah,
you know?
well, I think each department is going to be providing us more information as time goes by, as we approach May, for
I don't
sure.
think any other department really has, the only department that we really haven't heard from is the schools. I mean, every other department on the town side we've heard from, and they've been coming in right in line with what our requests have been, so.
And I think that we'll still be making judgments as we go through
Oh,
with those
absolutely.
departments.
Absolutely. As in any other budget process, it's a fluid document till the end. And once it's balanced,
Do it again.
Moving on, we go to input. Any public input? Board members?
Yep, I have a couple of things this time around. So, thank you. Was it this past Friday? I got the chance to attend the yearly MMA conference where I saw Keith Bonney and actually Tim Goddard as well, randomly. That was really fun. Got to see our new governor speak. It was very inspiring, and I think one of the messages I heard consistently was kind of the new world we're in with technology and how, you know, we can really use that to make our lives easier and understand information like we were just looking at, much easier, data, that kind of thing. And they're coming out with some really cool tools to be able to do that. So I'd just say, you know, it's something that we're all going to have to get used to and embrace and, you know, possibly change the way we do things, because I think, you know, I see a lot of energy in the technology department. So anyway, great conference. I was really inspired. Lieutenant Governor is a woman, so that was nice as well. But I had to leave early because there was the annual Littleton Chess Tournament, but it was postponed because we had one of our snowstorms. So it will be rescheduled, so just putting that word out there. Come up again in February probably. And that's it for me.
go Patriots. Big game Sunday.
Freddie?
I have nothing.
Mr. Rowell?
No, sir.
I just have one thing. It dates back to the 300th anniversary. All the banners that we had up on the poles, the light department took them all down. I want to thank the light department for all the work and time they put in to put up every one of those and to take them down. The people who bought them, your banners, right now, I have about half of them at my office, and Jack Holman has the other half at his office. And little by little, we'll be turning them back to the people that bought them, and I want to thank everyone that did that. I happen to have Mr. Carr family one here right now, so
Thank you very
there
much,
it is.
Mr. Chair. Appreciate it. Thank you. I don't know where we're going to hang it, but I'm sure there'll be a nice spot somewhere.
I tried to put one up in our office. They're a little bit bigger than what they look
When
like.
they're up on a pole, it's different.
It takes up one whole section of the wall. All right. So moving on, can we talk about the 2016 budget operating?
Yes.
You want to start, Bonnie?
Sure. I really don't have much more information to offer. We still have not received any preliminary state aid figures at this point. So at this point, and I haven't received the detailed budget breakdown for the school department. But with that said, if we are looking at the appropriation that they were requesting at the budget hearing, the deficit is $900,000. I was holding a placeholder that had a $550,000 increase to the general fund appropriation, and that would put the deficit at $319,000. The school department their request was $1,133,000, I believe, higher. So unless that number comes down, we're looking at a $900,000 deficit going into fiscal 2016. I don't have a lot of variables that I'm monitoring other than health insurance premiums when they come in. I know that our experience, as I mentioned before, this past year was not good. Our claims exceeded the premiums by 113%. We were running at 113%. So I'm not very optimistic about that. State aid, I have level funded. Maybe we'll see some change in those levels, but I wouldn't anticipate a large windfall at this point. Very aggressive new growth figures with the commercial and residential developments coming online. We have $850,000 estimated, which is double what we would normally see in any given year. And we did really push the local receipts last year by about 8%, so I'm kind of holding those steady with the permits and everything, the fees that come in associated with those types of projects. So we're still kind of hanging on until we receive more information. Keith and I did meet with the superintendent and the school business manager today, and we're going to meet again next week to try and, whittle down to the detailed numbers.
Yeah, we appreciated Kelly Clenchey's invitation to come and have a conversation. We will keep that up. He's asking his committee tonight for permission to share more information with us, and we hope that permission's granted. Because the sooner we start seeing the numbers and helping, the message that we brought was that we are all in this together. We all want to solve whatever the problem is, but we need to know what the problem is and need to know what the challenges are, and we will gladly roll up our sleeves and work together to help solve them.
We had this conversation about this month last year, right?
We did.
And the year before.
We did. So.
Don't go on ad infinitum.
No, we're just trying to get a running start on it this year, that it's less manageable this round than it was a year ago.
Mr. Hinckley?
I just wanted to point out the difference, well, hopefully we can avoid this year, but we went through last year with the whole circuit breaker and the back and forth on, how much they were going to contribute to the budget and all that being kind of done at the same time. A new contract's being negotiated, so, as my email was alluding to, hopefully we can get to more transparency with the schools and specifically their revolving funds so that we can understand, what's going on with these funds as we got earlier with Park and Rec, which is exactly what I've been looking for years, which is they've shown 7 years of what they've actually spent, and down at the bottom is a 7-year history on their revolving funds. And this is peanuts compared to what the schools have in circuit breaker, school choice, and what they collect in fees. And what I think is helpful is if we can get more transparency in what exactly goes on in the school budget. You won't get into these situations every year, which has been continuous, which is how much does the school department need, what do they have to work with, and are we all understanding what their needs are and what exactly is going on, which is hard to understand when you don't have any data. I mean, I've looked on their website going back to fiscal 2007. There's not one actual number anywhere. So every year it looks like we build the budget on the last year's budget. It's budget to budget. And my experience in school finance, when you build a budget, you don't build it on what last year's budget was. You build it on what you actually spent last year. And I think those are the sort of things that we need to work on with the school department and be more involved in their finances.
I do find it confusing that you use an example to substantiate your position, a change in law last year. And that's why there was an extended conversation on circuit breaker. You may recall the law did change.
There was a change in what?
The law, the legislation, on what had to be spent in a fiscal year.
I think the law's been like that for years.
What had to be spent in a fiscal year.
I think that's been like that for years. Am I not correct,
Not
Bonnie?
an issue to debate.
It's been like that for years.
And I've been able to see, the whole time I was on the school committee previously, actual numbers, what we actually spend each year. I don't know why you haven't been able to find it.
That's not relevant information for the taxpayers and the finance committee and the board of selectmen to know those numbers?
I said I'm not sure why you were not able to find it.
Point me to where it is.
Okay. You will get exactly where all the actual numbers are, Chris. Okay? You raise this every year. I don't know why
And every year
you've
we
been,
get what?
I don't know why you've been frustrated not to be able to find it or understand it, but we can work with you.
Okay, sure. We're all waiting.
Anything else on that? You want to go into the
Capital?
capital recommendations? Oh,
Sure, this is,
Are you from the FinCom? Besides Chris?
there was no
You
here.
didn't have any new operating budget information, did you?
No, we're not in sessions.
No.
Go ahead, Bud.
okay. So at the last meeting, we discussed starting with the capital plan process, and I offered to put together a draft plan. So this is exactly that. It is a draft. It is just something that the board can start looking at and formulating your recommendations on what items should be funded. But just as a reminder, there were approximately 2.8 million in requests, and we have about $1.9 million in total available funds. At the Finance Committee meeting held on January 13th, it was recommended that $350,000 of those available funds, which is kind of a one-year blip for short-term interest that we're saving, be allocated into the Capital Stabilization Fund for future use. It could be the fire station, it could be any other project in the future. So I did take that recommendation and incorporated it into this draft. But again, it's a draft. So taking that away from the $1.9 million that is available in funding, I could support about just over $1.5 million in total capital expenditures for this fiscal year. So I went through department by department. I took these in priority order by the department and started to draft a plan. I also took a look at what items might be qualified for Community Preservation Act funding. So I tried to identify those up front. The Long Store reconstruction at $300,000 could probably qualify for the historic preservation bucket. The historic cemetery restoration could also, at $50,000, probably qualify for CPC funding under historic. And the feasibility and design study under the Recreation Commission's requests for soccer field development behind the Russell Street School track may qualify for CPC funding under the Recreation. So I put those up front for you to consider. If the board thinks that those are worthy projects and should be pursued, then we want to reach out to CPC and the boards that would apply to guide them in that direction. So in this draft, again, I removed the $350,000 in available funds to go to capital stabilization, and I would have $1,552,129 authorized as appropriated by cash. There are no borrowing recommendations within this plan. I took a look into next year's capital plan, and there are some very large items. There's a ladder truck that's under consideration at over $1 million. So I think any short-term borrowing really wouldn't be feasible in looking out over the next 3 to 5 years. In the police department, I've identified $164,631 in items. The patrol vehicles as replacements at $102,000 for 2 cruisers. And the unmarked patrol vehicle at $43,000. The public safety radio maintenance at $12,000. And the police vehicle maintenance at $6,500. Under the fire department, major equipment and repair at $15,000. Protective clothing replacement program at $12,000. And engine 2 at $550,000. This would be replacing 2 vehicles, a 1998 engine and a 2002 rescue truck, so it's replaced with a combination rescue pumper, so it's part of their fleet reduction program, totaling $577,000 for the department. Highway department, I have $190,000 in recommended items, equipment and repair at $15,000. The Mack truck repairs for the frame damage that needs to be completed at $25,000. And the backhoe at $150,000 to replace a 1992 piece of apparatus. The school department, I've identified $155,000. The school lease payment, $35,000 on some MacBook Airs. Card access system at the high school for $50,000. The Chromebook computer replacements at $45,000, and miscellaneous technology and equipment for $25,000. In speaking with the superintendent today, he indicated that he might want to move one of those other items that fell further down in the priority list, the retrofitting of a life skills classroom, further up into the list, so that this might change slightly in the next few weeks. So I just wanted to make you aware of that. Facilities and infrastructure, we have $468,000 in items. The facility study recommendations, which are still being prioritized. I think Steve Moore is spearheading that group. Yeah, so they'll come back with the list of items, but I have earmarked $427,280 based on previous discussions with him on that. The fire station modular building, this is the lease at $6,000 that we pay annually. Recreation major equipment and repairs, $10,500 for major facility replacement. And cemetery HVAC system at $25,000 for replacements there. And then I kind of took the board's discussions before about items that might come up for the fall, and maybe we ought to prioritize a list now so that if that happens, although it might if it keeps snowing in the manner that it is. So I took a look through, and I identified about $263,000 in items that maybe could be considered in the fall. Master planning.
Stop snowing.
I know. Master planning services at 100,000, which is the amount that was originally requested to fund the total master planning services. The school department, 15,000 for Shaker Lane carpet and paint. The school department, 45,000 for that high school classroom retrofit that I mentioned earlier, so this might get moved up a little in priority. Highway, 66,000 for a mini excavator with trailer. Cemetery, 4,900 for a mower replacement. Cemetery, 25,000 to refurbish a 1995 backhoe. Police, 7,000 to refurbish their plow truck, which I'm assuming got used pretty heavily this week. And then, any other amounts could be considered for capital stabilization for future planning. So that's pretty much the summary. So if you look at that little chart, you can see in the middle column, the $1.9 million is identified. And then again, maybe $260,000 for fall, if it's available at all. And again, I know I've said this before, this is just my first draft through it. I took them in priority order from the departments. I did not jump around in the order, so if there are items that the board feels are more of a priority, then have at it.
The only thing I'd say is some of the issues that you have, the Shaker Lane carpet, that may come up at the facilities meeting, part of the 427, if it's on that whole
I think
list.
they did go through that preliminarily, and they pulled out some of the items, but these items were not.
Okay.
So,
Who, the school department did?
yeah, I think
Okay.
like some of the Univent replacement program under Shaker Lane, that's been moved to
Right,
the
got
facility,
that.
but, carpet and stuff like that wasn't.
I mean, we did some carpet last year in the high school, like, what was it, PJ? You remember the flooring we did? I know it was one of the schools we did carpeting, I think.
Carpeting was a tile,
Was it tile?
my recollection, Jim.
But it could be moved in there just to take off of this list, that's all I'm saying. Once that group list, group meets, I think we'll be able to
Yeah, we have to
kind
go
of
through this
manipulate
and
this
see.
and add and subtract, so to speak.
I do want to say that, I know that we're in a tight operating budget year, but, to be able to spend
No, it's unbelievable.
this on capital is,
It's unbelievable.
it's a thing that we've built towards since 2010, so this is an accomplishment.
So when are you looking for any type of input now, or you wanna?
Any input over the next, 1 or 2 meetings, I think would be
Okay.
great. If there's things you want me to move, change, if there's questions that you have of the departments that we need to.
And in particular, are you in agreement with putting that $350,000, kind of the one-time thing, into the stabilization fund as opposed to spending it? Because we know big things are coming next year and beyond. That would be a big item.
I wouldn't be opposed to it. I mean, I'd
Why
like
wouldn't
to,
we?
I'd like to sit down with, and once we go through the facilities group, see what their, there's hundreds and hundreds of items on that list.
See what you can't do that
See
you
what
really
we
want to
can't
do.
that
and
has to be
maybe
done.
get 300. and
We
we're instead of-
categorize them by health, life safety issues, and so I think before I say yes on that, let's get through that facilities meeting, and that will, but I'm not opposed to it at all.
Anything else, Board?
Maybe just one quick question. The ones that qualify for the community preservation fund, so of everything, there's only 3 things that could qualify?
Just in my initial review, I haven't seen any facility items, but I
No,
can't imagine
yeah.
that any of those.
I mean, they qualify, I would dare say nominally, whether, but that doesn't mean that you need to fund them.
Right.
Yeah, they're just
Given the whole
could-
discussion we had, if we don't have $300,000 this year to restore the Long Store, for example,
It's all
then
cozy, packed up
you
in a
may,
little garage.
you may want to look at something for a later date. The whole discussion we were having around a long-range blended Community Preservation Act plan is that you want to be putting money aside for the big purchases that the community's going to have. There's going to be some big open space purchase, there's going to be some big recreation expense, facility expense, and it's just, just like putting money in a capital stabilization fund for when we need to pay for a fire station. There's nothing wrong with putting money aside into the CPA fund and leaving it there until you need it, so. But we did go through the process of those things that have been requested. which are eligible, and they are eligible.
The nice thing about historic structures is they just get older.
That's right, just think, yeah.
Like wine, gets better with age.
That's historically speaking.
I saw his mind working.
Created this year.
No idea it's gonna be that big of a
Yesterday's news.
And the chiefs and then all the department heads have looked at this too, Bonnie, have gone through this with the department heads.
They've gone through and prioritized all their items. They have not looked at this draft. I wanted to share it with the board first.
Okay. Well, we'll go over it with the staff at Tuesday's.
Shortly meeting and get back to you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bonnie.
Thank you,
for doing
Bonnie.
that.
No, Keith, our next thing is Selectmen's regulations. Since we're thinking about waiving the requirement for public hearing, could we do 6 first and?
You sure can, yep. You could take that up now, number 6.
Because we're waived, you want the one that says waive the public hearing because of the snowstorm?
Yeah, on the matter, yeah, if I could, on the matter of the,
Thanks, guys.
Right,
thank you.
it's always a pleasure. No, not always, but.
No, not always.
Careful, your nose will grow.
Please echo that remark.
You guys are on fire tonight.
So the board we had a public hearing notice posted for Monday night at 8:15. And we didn't meet on Monday night because of the declaration of the state of emergency. So the question is what to do about the public hearing that was scheduled for that night. And what we've done is, the matter's on the agenda for tonight. It was not re-noticed. There was no opportunity to publish a new notice, though. But in looking at the state law and the Board of Selectmen's regulations, it's only your regulations, not the state law, that requires a public hearing in the first place. So since we can't meet the test of doing frankly, if it had been planning board special permit or something operating under a statute, that board would, and they couldn't meet because of a snow emergency, they would have no alternative but to renotice, repost, and then have a hearing at a later date. The Board of Selectmen has the ability, though, to simply waive your own requirement that there be a public hearing. The statute for entertainment says that the Board of Selectmen can either grant the license or order a hearing. So I would say in this case, if you vote to grant it, you can do so and be fine with the statute. It's only your regulations which refer to the requirement for a public hearing. We did notice all of the butters for Monday night's hearing. We didn't get any feedback, any concerns. We had a hearing only about a month ago that was properly noticed for the first 4, I think, dates, as you know, that were the license or the restriction for 529 King Street is until there's a ruling on the sprinkler
system,
that there's 12 that the law does allow this board to grant 12 separate occasions for entertainment in a year. This would bring you up to 7. The three dates that are requested tonight, including the Saturday, would bring you up to 7. So we're still within the law there. So it would be my recommendation that you vote to waive your requirement of a public hearing and then act on the application.
I don't have any problem with it because we didn't hear a word from any of the abutters. I think they would have said something. I'll go real quick.
Move that the Board of Selectmen vote to waive the requirement for a public hearing and approve, and you want to talk about, we're gonna get rid of the next 6 then, huh? Because we're gonna approve the license application here, all in one. If you want to ask any questions. I thought this was just a waiving of the actual public hearing. This is all one motion.
Yeah, the motion would be to waive it
Well, we
and
have some
approve it.
discussion about the what you want to do for those 4 dates.
You don't have it written down?
Well, no, but
Oh,
I'm
well,
sure the
this-
public would like to know what you're gonna do on January
January
31st, February
The first one is this
14th.
Saturday night. We
Yeah.
have a piano trio, the great Harvey Diamond, who's in his late 70s now. He's retiring and moving to North Carolina, so he'd like to have his farewell concert at Act 3, mainly because of our longstanding relationship as the Acton Jazz Cafe in the past. So he's asked to have his farewell concert there. I already have 22 people interested in attending the concert with the approval of the selectmen. 22 plus the 3 in the trio brings it up to 25, which is the occupancy of the room. So we're hoping to have that concert, and then the next thing we want to do would be on Valentine's Day. We have a great jazz quartet led by Cersei Miller, who's one of the most highly regarded saxophonists on the East Coast. They want to do a 2-hour-long concert for the 8 p.m. Valentine's night romantic seating. That's an acoustic jazz quartet, the same thing in the front window where the plate glass windows are. It's going to be beautiful. And the third event that we're asking for is on Sunday, February the 22nd. I'm hoping to have an all-day long jazz jam. My former jazz jam community were about 50 people who came to the Acton Jazz Cafe every Sunday for years and years and years and years. And a lot of these people put in money to help me to move to Littleton. And so I'm hoping to just give them a one-shot offering to let them know that we still care about their musicianship and their community and their relationship to each other, just to give them some hope that someday we might have more regular live music. I do want to assure people that I'm going to be there at all times, both as a crowd manager and a musician and a friend, making sure that the occupancy of the room doesn't exceed the 25 where the music is, or the 19 where our casual dining room is. There'll inevitably be musicians sitting in that room waiting their turn to be able to play with the musicians who are playing in the front room, but we're not going to let it exceed our occupancy of 44. The jam session is a more wide-open, free-flowing concept where one musician leaves the stage and another one is signed up, and they get up and they say, well, I want to play Misty in A flat, and everyone says okay, and they play that, and someone else gets up and joins the band. So it's a wonderful community event. So that's the third one that I'm asking for on this grouping, and I know I'm already getting to 7 by the end of February. It's because I'm trying to serve the people who supported our move and our establishment in Littleton, and also because I have some hope that whether or not we win the appeal, Virginia and I are going to find some way, whether we have to re-outfit the building, whether it comes to raising money for sprinklers or putting in fire doors or winning the appeal. Somehow during this year, we're going to find a way to incorporate more regular live music in our own sophisticated intellectual way into our presentation to the community, which is art, music, food, and a fine leisure experience. So right now I'm just asking for that, mainly so that I can show my people, all the people who care, who contribute, who ask every day, when's the music, when's the music? Well, here it is, this Saturday, Valentine's Day, February 22nd.
And we have down February 15th. You want 22nd?
Oh, yes, I do.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry, yeah, I guess that was originally, yeah, Virginia wanted to move
Not a
that.
problem. 22nd.
Okay.
Oh, good to get those then.
Yeah,
And Chief, you're all set? You have no issue?
As long as they're, yep, obtains their permit for that date, that's.
I
You
have,
already spoke with Keith. You were
I
in
gave it
the
to
other
Keith
day.
the other day, and I'm waiting to hear back from him. Yeah, and then we also have the crowd control manager checklist that we put up every time we have an event. Yeah. Okay.
I was just gonna say, I've been in attendance at one of your jazz things, and one person comes on after the other when you're over in Acton.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's pretty neat.
Yeah, it is.
So if I may ask the chief, if the board votes to approve these dates, is it just one application through the fire, or 1, 2, 3?
It's a permit per event.
Prevent, is it, can it be done like consecutively, simultaneously? How?
She can come in and yes, apply for the 3 events at once, yes.
But I did that on Monday before the storm.
Correct,
Yeah.
right.
I think the only comment I have is that, I fully support this and we should do it. What I don't support is putting the two motions together because I don't support not having a public hearing about it. I think that's our policy, we should do it, part of being transparent. But I will vote in favor of what you want to do. I just believe that procedurally, we should have proceeded to a public hearing.
Well, you could, but then you would miss 2 of the 3
2 of the
days
events.
by the
Right.
time we get back to a public hearing.
Well, if he wants to say no, he can say no. I'll make the 2 motions, no big deal.
Okay,
You
go
okay
ahead.
with that, Mr. Chair?
Yes.
All right. Move that the Board of Selectmen vote to waive its requirement for a public hearing.
Second.
Moved in second, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
Nay.
I move that the Board of Selectmen vote to approve an entertainment license application under Mass General Law, Chapter 140, subsection 181, for Act 3 Restaurant, Inc., doing business as Act 3, 529 King Street, Littleton, to allow live music performances on January 31, February 14th, and February 22nd, 2015. Since the public hearing is on Monday, and it was canceled, declared on. Suppose I could have read that last sentence, huh?
Yeah, the last sentence would have modified the first motion.
Right.
Second.
So shall it be.
So moved in second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed?
There you go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And before long, we can end the charade,
I was reading the
get a
wrong one.
full-time
I was
permit.
reading the old number 6, not the new number 6.
Or not.
Moving on, Selectmen's regulations and policies. Does anyone have any?
That's where I found out we could waive it. I told Keith, I called him right up and said, hey, we could waive that.
You
Yeah.
could waive them all.
That's how we found out.
Oh, neat.
Public hearing. Because I read the 787 pages.
And did you find anything else in those
It gets
700?
longer every week.
Did you find something else that you'd like to change in that?
No, I just, I was happy to be able to waive that public hearing, and informing Mr. Bergman of such.
Well done there, Troy Brown.
There was an interesting one in there about the requirement to sound your horn when you're passing somebody. It occurred to me that maybe some of those ought to be looked at for public preservation purposes, otherwise there'd be a lot of horn blowing going on in town.
Apparently a lot of violations.
Usually,
Point of clarification, chief? Point of clarification?
I mean, people tooting their own horns?
Exactly. Sorry. Gotta be said.
Do we have anything that we want to bring up? I mean, we have that big document that Melissa has.
I just had questions and things I wanted to ask, nothing that I wanted to change. I mean, the only thing I could think of, I don't even think it belongs in there, is just traffic signs. We've got that flashing yellow light. Do we need to mention what people should do about that? Or I don't think it's probably not our job. I don't know. It's just a weird thing. Other than that, I got nothing.
That's a state thing.
Yeah, right. They set those rules, right?
And they've actually explained what they use for it, too.
What's valuable secondhand items? That part I didn't know what that was. Valuable secondhand.
That's a fairly new one.
That's all the leftover stuff we, like,
Proverbial one man's treasure.
yeah.
Garbage is another man's treasure.
An old lawnmower.
Oh, that we buy them. Is that what it is? Somebody else has already used it and we want to buy it.
Well, we can.
And that's the rules around it.
Like Jim was putting in for a used fork truck.
Okay, that's what that is. Okay. Got it.
Okay, anything specific that we want to go through right now? And just move
Well,
on?
one of the real reasons why the board had said we should have an annual review is so each sitting Board of Selectmen can take note of all the policies that have been adopted by prior boards, because it's a practical matter. an incoming board operates on those policies until you change them, but we've never actually asked the board to adopt, essentially to adopt the standing policies as your own, or at least to acknowledge that they're there. But that's certainly been the practice. I mean, until you change them, the Board of Selectmen reaches back to, sometimes ancient policies adopted by boards long ago, but.
Long ago. See. Moving on, number 7.
I should mention, by the way, I just got an email from Park and Rec that Fred asked that they be back on February 9th. They would prefer, they had their own meeting, they would prefer to come back sooner rather than later. So we'll have them back on the 9th rather than the 23rd.
Okay, establishing a gift fund, Littleton Electric Light Department fuel facility replacement. This has to do with the $300,000 for the new, we have to set up a special fund to take the money in.
Yeah, the Electric Light Department is very anxious to
Get it off their books.
have this money come to the town and to have it be, to get it off their books, and so it can be a town project, so.
Have you awarded the contract in?
No.
Are you rebidding it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
PNBC
at the last meeting, the board referred the whole project to PNBC as their project. Receiving the $300,000 gift from the Electric Light Department will give PNBC a total of $539,000.
548, I think.
Yeah.
548, 388, 548, 388.
That's right.
So, and await a motion.
Move that the Board of Selectmen vote pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 44, subsection 53A, to establish special gift fund account to proceed, gift fund account, the proceeds of which shall be used without further appropriation by the Permanent Municipal Building Committee to replace a fuel facility at 39 Ave Road and to receive a gift of $300,000 from Littleton Electric Light Department for this purpose.
Seconded?
Moved and seconded, all those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? That passes. COA, transportation fundraising. Pam, you want to go into it?
I'm very happy to tell you that I'm here not to ask for more money.
Not from you,
Not from you.
everyone watching.
From everyone watching, right. Things are kind of coming together all at once. You know, we're kicking off the needs assessment. The meeting is Saturday at 10:30 in this room, to the public meeting to let people know about the needs assessment. As part of that, we are going to do a mailing of the newsletter, our senior broadcaster, in April to every household. And we would like permission in that mailing to ask for donations to a fund specifically for transportation. And it's to replenish the money that we had to take out of our maintenance fund because of the shortfall that we had last year, and to also give us additional money because I suspect that we're going to have increased, I know we're going to have increased operating expenses this year. In the last fiscal year, the median ride number was $367 per month. That's the number where half of the months were above and half the months were below. Since July, every month has been above that, and in December, we had 501 rides. Transportation is a very hot topic, and people are well up on it, and they ask me about it, and they talk about it, and I'd like to take advantage of that by asking them to very concretely contribute.
Fine
I
with
ask
me.
your permission to do that.
Anything but I have no problem with it at all.
I think that's smart.
I think you'll see, hopefully see a lot of people come out and say, you do a lot for the town and you
I think
do a
so.
lot for our seniors, so.
It's such a
let's help us.
crucial piece for independence.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
And I think people are, they're
Absolutely.
getting that, they're recognizing that. And Keith, I have to thank you for your efforts in just raising the consciousness about transportation in Littleton in general.
Thank you. And this Saturday, you've got, speaking of consciousness raising, the needs assessment
10:30.
forum is been rescheduled for this Saturday, January 31st, 10:30 in this building.
And Dr. Jan Muchler, who is the consultant who's going to be running
Yeah.
it, will be doing a presentation.
And we are anticipating, just from everything we've heard, that transportation will be among the top needs that are articulated for, for the elderly in the community.
What
Things
time
that-
Saturday?
10:30
10:30, yeah.
a.m.
I meet with Jan next Tuesday.
Excellent.
It's been postponed twice because of
Yeah, I'm
weather.
going to meet with her tomorrow afternoon. Rescheduling, great.
All right.
Just have one
People
question. please.
recognizing that transportation supports all the other pieces. Health, nutrition.
Yeah.
Pam, just one question, please. Who will have dispersing authority, you or the COA?
It would be Pamela.
It would be me.
Yeah,
I kind of am the COA.
yeah.
You mean the board
Yeah, the
versus
budgetary
me?
function has devolved to the department head. Yeah.
So-
COA is,
Good question, Paul.
yeah. But we have asked the COA to be the group that brings requests like we want their vote of policy support in order to
Right.
bring something forward.
And
to
they
the
voted
selectmen.
unanimously in support of making this request.
All right, I'll move that the Board of Selectmen vote pursuant to its policy on solicitation and acceptance of monetary and non-monetary gifts for public purpose to approve the request of Council on Aging to place in a townwide mailing of the monthly COA newsletter and appeal for donations for transportation, with donations received therefrom to be deposited into a special gift fund established by the Board of Selectmen pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 44, subsection 53A, on June 23, 2014, for the transportation, did I hear a change? No? For a transportation program of the Department of Elder and Human Services.
Seconded. Moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Thank you.
Good luck.
Thank you very much.
Good luck.
Ciao, Pam, have a nice night.
Leaves us 2 minutes.
Any input there? Good? Okay. Move the Board of Selectmen approves meeting minutes from January 12th.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed?
Not present.
Not present.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed?
Good night, go Patriots.
Thank you very much for watching.
Thank you.
Now, we sent out the electronic agenda for this meeting 7 days ago. We're not always going to send the